Episode 251. It was Rosaria who had disappeared for a while.
That's a joke. Why would I be guilty? I've done nothing wrong.
Aaron puffed out his chest. Yeah, Miss Eisenberg, even though that Miss Lewis pursued Mr. Bennett in public, Mr. Bennett never went out to see her. He was angry in his office every day, calling her a psycho. Olive hurriedly agreed. She's right. That Miss Lewis has really made Mr. Bennett feel annoyed, the other secretaries added. Mr. Bennett even forbade her from setting foot in the company and the parking lot. Hearing their words, Aaron finally gave them a satisfied glance. He now believed that he had hired those secretaries for a good reason. You don't need to explain for him. Your boss is so perfect, it's a normal thing for him to have suitors. I'm just jealous of him. No one has ever pursued me with balloons and big LED screens, April teased.
If you like balloons, I'll get you balloons tomorrow.
Aaron hurriedly guided her into the office. He closed the door, held April, and said to her,
April, you're not angry again, are you?
I'm not. I even admire Jenica a little. How on earth did she manage to make this boyfriend-stealing thing so shocking? April laughed. You said that she pursued you before. She didn't get you by doing all those things, did she? The symbolic proudness now froze on Aaron's face. April was a little speechless as well. It seemed that she had guessed correctly. So this is what you like, she said.
Not exactly. When we were in school, she pursued with this passion. I was young and naive, so I was a little touched. Later on, we gradually got together. It has been so many years, but she thinks that we're still like before.
Aaron rubbed his forehead.
Now I have you. Her behavior really annoyed me. Please stop mentioning her to me. She's been torturing me lately.
April chuckled. Aaron had always been a narcissistic person, and now he had met his opponent. Keep working. I'll stay here with you. April pushed him. Aaron nodded. Only after solving the Jenica crisis did he have the mood to concentrate on his work. In the next couple of hours, he sat in his office reading files about investment plans. He also checked the stock market from time to time. April sat beside him, eating fruit. Occasionally, she would put a peeled grape in his mouth. Aaron finished the page, then turned to look at April. Sunlight poured in through the window onto the tips of her hair. She lowered her head, looking at her phone while biting the orange in her hand. Her nose was small and delicate, and her eyelashes flat like a pair of mini hand fans. Aaron had never felt so peaceful. This was exactly like how she had accompanied him before when she was his caregiver. Back then, she lied about her age and made herself not pretty. For those reasons, he failed to notice the sprouting feelings for her in his heart. At that very moment, Aaron realized that he had fallen in love with her earlier than he had thought. April... April raised her head with a piece of orange in her mouth. Her face bumped into Aaron's lips. Their breath mixed together. Aaron said in a husky voice,
Earlier, you told Jenica that when two people are in love, they will instinctively want to touch and fulfill each other. Is that true?
Uh-huh. April choked on the orange, and her pretty face immediately turned red.
So you have craved me as well.
Aaron suddenly reached out his hands, lifted April, and put her on his desk. April bit her lip and then said, I'm sitting on your files.
It's all right.
Aaron rubbed his lips against hers, smelling the sweet scent of orange.
April, I want to fulfill you right now.
We're in your office. April pushed his chest. Aaron ignored her. No matter what she said, he refused to stop kissing her lips. His hands were busy too. They were quickly looking for a way into her clothes. However, those hands searched for a while but failed to find an entrance. At last, he finally found an entrance around her lower legs, but then his hands got stuck near her thighs. He tried but couldn't move his hands further upward. Seeing the anxious look on his face, April burst out in laughter.
Yeah, laugh.
Aaron's eyes were an upset look but were also filled with lust. As he prepared to tear her clothes to pieces, April's phone rang on the chair. Let me answer this call. She attempted to get off the desk.
It's just a call. Is it more important than me?
Aaron didn't let her. At this time, the private part of his body had been giving him a very uncomfortable feeling. His entire body was ready for sex. It's really important. The voice acting director that I worked with in California wants to do a new show with me. We were talking via WhatsApp just now. I guess he's calling me now as I didn't reply to his messages. April pushed Aaron away and answered the call.
April, I just talked to the producer. We'll have dinner tonight and talk about the script,
said Brendan Walla, the voice acting director. Sure, April responded. Next, she ended the call and raised her head to find Aaron staring at her in discontent.
Aren't you going to have dinner with me tonight?
He asked. I had dinner with you last night. April looked down and began tidying her clothes.
No, I'm going with you. I heard a man's voice just now, said Aaron expressionlessly. You're only going to talk about a script, but why will you do it in a fancy restaurant? I think that man is up to something else.
It's because the director is paying for it. The crew is rich and they'll pay for dinner. April showed Brandon's Instagram moments to Aaron. This is what the voice acting director looks like. Are you sure that you want to be jealous of him? Aaron glanced at her phone. The man on the screen was wearing a pair of glasses and was neither handsome nor ugly. Aaron believed that the average-looking man was not even as good as one of his legs, and surely not as charismatic as Ryan. He was immediately relieved. It's not that I don't want you to go. You're not an ordinary man, so I'm afraid that you might make others feel stressed, said April.
That's true, but I only want to know about my girlfriend's work. That's not wrong, is it?
Asked Aaron with concern. April hesitated for a short while, then nodded. It was reasonable for a couple to get to know about each other's work. At 6:30, Aaron parked his car at the restaurant's parking lot. April unfastened her seatbelt, saying, Later, whatever you hear, don't be surprised and don't say anything. Also, you can't tell anyone about the content of our conversation. Aaron was so confused.
Do you have to make it sound like a central committee meeting?
Every industry has its own secrets. You don't understand now, but you will later, said April. They walked into a VIP room on the 3rd floor. Brandon was already there. He politely shook Aaron's hand and said,
Mr. Bennett, I'd have booked a luxury room if I'd known that you'd be here.
Brendan had known about the relationship between April and Aaron. Earlier in California, Aaron's assistant had called him every day to ask about April, but he never told April about that.
It's all right. I'm here to keep my girlfriend company today. You should ignore me and talk about whatever you want to. Also, you don't have to introduce me to the director later. Just act natural.
How dare we ignore you? Brandon thought. To avoid unexpected problems, Brandon hurriedly walked out and called Director Brown, who was on his way there. He told Director Brown about who Aaron was and asked him to be polite to him. After all, many directors didn't like irrelevant people to be around during the discussion about scripts. 6 or 7 minutes later, Director Brown arrived, respectfully greeted Aaron, and shook hands with him.
You guys do the talking. I'll be eating.
Aaron waved a hand.
Hire my girlfriend if she's qualified, but you don't need to hire her for me.
Ever since he had found out who April really was, he never worried about her ability. Director Brown took out his phone, handed it to April, and said,
This is some early footage. Take a look.
April played the video. The story took place in the spring and autumn period. On the screen, the leading actor and actress were sitting under the moonlight, surrounded by blossoms.
Confucius said, blah, blah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
said the leading actor with a clear and loud voice. The leading actress responded, Gongzu 4523621. I'll always be waiting for you. April had seen such things before. As Director Brown had cautiously invited both her and Brandon here, she had guessed some of it. Unlike her, Aaron was stunned.
So this is what TV series are originally like? Of course not. This is a special case.
Director Brown hurriedly waved a hand and said awkwardly,
I don't really like this leading actress, but she's popular. She brings audience, and audiences mean everything now. For the audience rating, I had no choice. She's paid by the day and her schedule is always full. It would take longer if we asked her to memorize lines, so with no other choice, we can only put more effort into voice acting. As for the leading actor, Classic of poetry was just too hard for him to memorize.
Aaron frowned. He rarely paid attention to the film and television industry, so he had no idea that the atmosphere had become like that. Brendan and April glanced at each other. After that, the former said,
Director Brown, the leading actor and actress didn't memorize most of their lines, which means we basically need to study all the lines all over again. I understand, and the leading actress isn't good at acting either. I hope you can rebuild her voice.
He looked at Aaron and continued,
That's why I eventually decided to let April do her voice. She's a capable one, after all, and she doesn't charge much. How about this? We offer $480 per episode for the main female character's voice. She can also do other characters if she likes, but the price can't be as high. It's $200 per episode for other characters. What? $480 per episode?
Aaron couldn't help but exclaim out loud. Under the table, April hurriedly kicked his foot. Aaron pressed his lips together, but he still murmured,
It's really cheap.
Director Brown wore an embarrassed look, saying,
Mr. Bennett, you're rich. It's surely a small amount of money for you, but in the voice acting circle, $480 per episode is already not bad. Miss Eisenberg is not yet an especially popular voice actress after all. Also, I really can't afford a higher price. We've spent too much money on the early stage, so our funding for post-production is limited.
Director Brown, I'm good with the price. April laughed. Aaron's expression turned extremely complicated. Next, Brandon, April, and Director Brown started talking about the emotions and tones and other features of the main characters in the TV series. The dinner lasted until 8 o'clock. Aaron went to the bathroom twice. When dinner was finally over, the four of them came out of the VIP room together. At that time, two people came out of the room across the hall. A fat middle-aged man and a woman in his arms who was wearing heavy makeup. That woman was none other than Rosaria, who had previously disappeared for a while. Episode 252. I'm going on patrol tonight. The dinner is simple. April paused briefly. Rosaria, who was laughing sweetly in that man's arms, turned her head slightly and saw April. She hurriedly covered her face with her purse, and the look on her face changed.
Mr. Bennett, it's been so long. Rosewood City is a huge city, yet we've still come across each other.
The eyes of the man whose arms were around Rosaria glowed when he spotted Aaron. He shambled toward Aaron to shake his hands eagerly.
Hi, Mr. Clark.
Aaron responded blandly. April turned to look at Rosaria. It had only been less than 2 months since they had last seen each other back in Lukesville, but she almost failed to recognize her. Now Rosaria's lips were terribly red and her face looked sallow and thin. She blinked quickly without daring to look at April.
Why are you hiding your face? Get over here to greet Mr. Bennett.
Mr. Clark slapped her hand as she wasn't looking at Aaron. Good to see you, Mr. Bennett. Rosaria bit her lip and endured the embarrassment to come over and greet Aaron. Aaron looked at her and said,
You look familiar. She's Rosaria. She used to be a popular star.
Mr. Clark laughed.
Now she's mine.
Hearing that, Rosaria lowered her head further and clenched her fist. Aaron was surprised. He had seen Rosaria before. She had stolen Isaac from April, but put April in a miserable situation. Earlier on, April punished Rosaria by herself. He hadn't really paid attention to Rosaria's appearance at the time, so if Mr. Clark hadn't mentioned her name, he wouldn't have been able to recognize her. She had changed drastically. Before, she was rather pretty, but now she looked like a meretricious prostitute.
Mr. Bennett, are you here to have dinner with your girlfriend? Your girlfriend is so pretty. She's clearly a young lady from a respectable family,
said Mr. Clark. She's April. There were rumors about her all over the city earlier. Rosaria couldn't help but say in a low voice. Aaron's expression changed slightly.
Mr. Clark, your woman is quite talkative. Yes, she is. I'll give her a lesson for you.
Mr. Clark turned back and slapped Rosaria in the face. Rosaria fell directly to the ground, and a few drops of blood seeped out of the corner of her mouth. April frowned when looking at her. She hated Rosaria so much, but now she actually felt pity for her, so she couldn't help but take a step forward to help her up. However, Rosaria slapped her arm away, saying, "Go away! Stop pretending! You're the reason why I became like this!"
"How dare you yell at Mr. Bennett's girlfriend?"
Mr. Clark turned around and kicked Rosaria. At that moment, no other sounds but a woman's cries could be heard in the hallways. Aaron wasn't comfortable with that. He knitted his brows and said, "Enough. How can a man hit a woman?"
"All right, as Mr. Bennett interceded for you, I'll let you get away with this easily."
Mr. Clark straightened his suit while talking. "Aaron, let's go." April couldn't bear watching that, so she held Aaron's hand and headed downstairs. Brandon followed behind them, saying,
"I'm surprised that Rosaria has become like this. Last year when we saw her, she didn't even bother to look at us. She used to be a voice actor too. Now she's become like this."
Mr. Brown responded,
"I think she deserves it. She never respected us directors when she was popular, but because she had Isaac's support, she charged the most but worked the least. And she was always late. If the Magma Group hadn't been interfering, these things would have spread long ago. Last year, she parted ways with the Magma Group, and since then, Isaac has been trying to bring her down crazily. I heard that she's even using drugs now."
April stopped walking and asked, "She uses drugs?"
It hasn't been proved yet. I just heard about it, but I don't know if it's true," said Director Brown. "But I can tell that she has lost some serious weight."
April nodded. Rosaria looked awful indeed. Back when they were in school, Rosaria's appearance was considered better than average, even though she wasn't as pretty as April.
After her scandals were exposed, those advertising companies all came to her and asked for penalties. She paid out tens of millions. I guess she doesn't have much money left now. You can never guess the end of a story in the entertainment industry.
Director Brown shook his head and said goodbye to Aaron and left. On the way back to the villa, April stayed silent the whole time. Aaron turned on the music and started a conversation.
"Are you thinking about Rosaria?"
"Yeah." April rested a hand on the window. The wind ruffled her hair. "I used to be good friends with Rosaria. She's definitely not a decent person, but seeing her like that, I just don't know how to describe my feelings."
"If you ask me, I'd say that she deserves what she got," Aaron said blandly. "People can make serious money in the entertainment industry. But still, so many other people who are paid thousands per month are living peaceful lives. She worked in the entertainment industry for a couple of years. She should at least have some money left. However, she just refused to face reality. Instead, she hooked up with that Mr. Clark and tried to take a shortcut to success. Some people are just like that. They climbed high and they'll do whatever they can to stay there. They're just so afraid of falling back to the bottom."
April nodded, sighing. He was so right.
Speaking of the entertainment industry, actors and actresses do make big money. Compared to them, you dubbers are too cheap, aren't you?
Aaron recalled the price he heard at dinner.
$480 per episode?
His face was filled with disbelief.
You can only make 20 or 30,000 after you do the whole series, and you must get all the emotions right. It's not easier than acting.
"That's the normal price. Did you think my job could make a fortune?" April said.
"I thought you could at least earn hundreds of thousands from one TV series."
Aaron gave her a glance and said,
"You're so cheap."
Hearing what he said, April was upset. "I don't only do the main female character, I'll also do other characters. Normally I'll do 3 to 5 voices in a show. So in total, I can make 60 or 70,000 in one show. And if I do 10 shows a year, I'll make 600,000 or 700,000 per year. In fact, that's already good enough for most people." Aaron shook his head and responded,
"Except for Sylvia, you make the least amount of money among all the people I know."
April felt frustrated, so she responded impatiently. "I'm sorry for not making a lot of money."
"It's all right, I'm rich anyway. I'm just wondering why you chose voice acting. In fact, you're capable enough to be a singer or an actress. You'd be making so much more than you are now.
I'm not doing it for money. I simply love voice acting. My grandma was a dubbing artist. Back in her time, a dubber could only make 100 won for one movie. However, my grandma was proud of her job until the day she passed away. I'm just like her. This industry needs voice acting. The film and television market is becoming more and more international. Many people from Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan, and even some foreigners come here to shoot movies and shows. Voice actors and actresses are needed. You don't understand. Every time a dub movie was on, I felt so proud when I heard the voices of leading characters in it. Some actors can only do dozens of films in their lives, but we dubbers can do hundreds or even thousands of films. Our voices make countless characters more real. I'm proud of what I do. Erin listened to her speech. Her snow-white face was glowing, looking especially charming. He suddenly felt that it had not been wrong to come with her here tonight. He had learned about her job and her dream. A woman should have her own dreams. Are you and Mr. Clark business partners? April asked abruptly. No. Erin shook his head. He's my uncle's partner. They're doing real estate together. I've seen him a few times, but I don't know him well. I don't like him, and I don't think the real estate market has a future. How come your uncle knows someone like that? They make use of each other, said Erin. He's the owner of the Scarlet Group. April understood. The Scarlet Group had developed quite a few projects all over the country. No wonder Rosaria hadn't left him, even after suffering that kind of violence. Next, April lowered her head to browse the Instagram moments. 5 minutes ago, Sylvia had posted a new moment. It was a picture of a half-eaten boxed meal with a few simple words. I'm going on patrol tonight. The dinner is simple. Did Sylvia talk to you recently? April was quite worried about her. She did yesterday. She asked if we had made up. Erin replied. What about her and Jeremy? Not yet. She's waiting for Jeremy, April said. You'd know if you saw her newest Instagram moment. As a red light was in front of him, Erin took a glance at Sylvia's new post and then said, She said that she's on patrol. What does it have to do with her waiting for Jeremy? Did she ever post Instagram moments about her simple meals before? But ever since she broke up with Jeremy, she's made similar posts every couple of days. Normally a girl would only post something like this to get the attention of the person that she likes. A smart man or a man who cares about his girl should be sending her some scrumptious food as soon as he saw her post. Erin was enlightened. I get it. I seem to grow extra fond of posting Instagram moments every time we had a fight. The EQ of my little sister is really high as mine. April didn't know what to say. Sylvia's EQ is way higher than yours, she thought. I guess she has all the EQ that you failed to grow back in your mom's uterus. Let's send her some food, she suggested. It's still early anyway. Why? As you said, she clearly made the post for Jeremy. If he doesn't bring her any food, they should break up. Erin responded. You understand it now because I just explained it to you. Jeremy may not understand it either. April sighed. If he doesn't show up with some good food or doesn't even call her to ask how she's been doing, Sylvia will be really disappointed. It's not about if he understands or not, Erin frowned. As your boyfriend, if I saw you eating poor food, I'd be worried. I would send the best food to you as quickly as possible. April immediately felt as sweet as honey. She smiled and said, Not every man cares about his girlfriend like our Mr. Bennett does. Some people might say to their girlfriends that watching you eating this tiny portion of food makes me worry, but wouldn't take any actual action. The slightly better ones might send their girlfriends some money and tell them to buy some better food for themselves. The second kind of man is already considered nice. These men are so hypocritical, Erin said disdainfully. Sylvia liked barbecue, so April and Erin bought some. After that, they asked someone about where she was patrolling and then drove that way. Sylvia and 2 male police officers parked their vehicles in the busiest part of the city. Seeing April and Erin show up with food, Sylvia was so touched that she was even about to cry. April, you're the best sister-in-law in the world. It's been quite a while since I posted that, but only you brought food to me. Episode 253. Have you fallen in love with me? Aaron reminded Sylvia unhappily.
I came here with her. Am I not a person?
You've never brought me any food. It must have been April's idea to come here, or maybe the sun rose in the west today, Sylvia said while chewing barbecued mutton. Aaron didn't know what to say. He really hadn't planned to bring her any food. He thought of Jeremy.
What about Jeremy? Isn't he coming here?
Sylvia paused for a second, then lowered her eyes and responded. He sent me a message in an Instagram red packet and told me to buy some food.
I didn't reply to him.
Aaron raised his eyebrows and looked at April. That had been one of April's guesses. It was not bad, but as Sylvia's brother, he was not satisfied with it.
He should have brought you some food himself, he said with discontent. Do you need that money? No. What you need is him bringing you food in person.
Before he finished, he felt someone kick him. He turned to April and asked,
Why did you kick me? My pants are dirty now.
April was speechless. Couldn't he tell that she was trying to stop him from saying that? Hearing those words would only make Sylvia sadder. Sylvia forced a smile and said, All right, it's not important whether he came here or not. I didn't make the Instagram post just for him. I just wanted to express my feelings. Besides, I didn't even marry him. I think we have almost broken up.
That's not true. The other day he came to my place and asked me to talk to you. He wants to get back together with you.
Aaron frowned even deeper.
What on earth is Jeremy doing? He wants to win you back, but is making no effort at all. Does he expect us to help him? I think maybe you should find someone else. You aren't allowed to get back together with him.
Well, it's not like that, actually. Yesterday and the day before that, he came to pick me up after work and brought me flowers and chocolates, Sylvia hurriedly explained. It's just that I didn't forgive him. He might be busy today. April put her arm around Aaron's and said, All right, let's go home. We shouldn't disturb Sylvia's work. She's on patrol.
This is one important thing in your life. Think carefully about it,
Aaron said to Sylvia while April dragged him away. Seeing their car drive away, Sylvia gave a long sigh filled with disappointment. After she finished the barbecue, a male officer said to her,
No one is on patrol near the bar street. Let's go over there and take a look.
All right, Sylvia nodded. They drove the police car to a street that had bars on both sides. Sylvia looked out the window and suddenly saw a very drunk Jenica rush out of a bar and began vomiting to the side of a flower bed. Jeremy was standing behind her, patting her back. Sylvia's eyes narrowed and her heart twitched a little. When the car drove away, she hurriedly took out her phone and called Jeremy.
Sylvia?
Jeremy, where are you? She asked in a gentle voice. Jeremy stood at the roadside and glanced at Jenica, who was still throwing up. He recalled that not long ago, Sylvia had become unhappy because of Jenica. He didn't want her to misunderstand, so after a short hesitation, he said,
I'm outside drinking with a few retired Army friends.
I'm hungry. Can you bring me some food?
Didn't I send you an Instagram red packet?
I only want food that you buy for me.
I can't do it now. How about tomorrow? I'll bring you breakfast tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Never mind. The call was ended. Seeing the words call ended on his phone, Jeremy somehow felt that what he had been holding in his hands was slipping further and further away. In the police car, Sylvia leaned against the window. Her phone slowly dropped from next to her ear. Recently, Jeremy had gone to the police station to see her every single day, but today he hadn't shown up because of Jenica. Sylvia wasn't an unreasonable person. Jeremy could have told her that Jenica was drunk, and then he could have asked her to come pick her up with him. After all, they were all friends. Why had he lied to her? She even offered him a chance to bring her some food, but he lied because of Jenica. Friends in the Army. What friends in the Army? She didn't consider herself an unreasonable person. She just could not stand the fact that in Jeremy's heart, she was never as important as a female friend of his. She wondered if her needs would always be the second most important thing to him in the future when Jenica needed him. Even her brother, who had terribly low EQ, understood that what she needed was not money, but to be cared about. There were many times he had been far away from her, so he could only tell her to drink some warm water when she caught a cold. And there were many times that she wanted to talk to him when she was sad and helpless, but the calls were unsuccessful. However, all that didn't bother her. She only needed him to love her wholeheartedly when he was with her. Nevertheless, he didn't even love her as much as he loved a friend of his. She remembered that Jeremy always praised Jenica when they were little. If Jenica hadn't liked her brother but had instead paid more attention to Jeremy, would she still have had a chance to be with him?
"Let's park right here. This place has the largest flow of people,"
said the officer who was driving the car. "I'll get out to breathe some fresh air." Sylvia opened the door and got out of the car. She gazed at the stars in the sky. She could not cry. She could never cry in front of her colleagues. She could not cry in front of her family either. However, the harder she tried to stop herself from crying out loud, the worse her heart ached, as if someone were hacking it with a dull knife. Countless times she imagined herself spending her whole life with Jeremy. She was a police officer while he was a soldier. They would have so many kids, and they would love each other till the end of their lives. "He robbed me! He took my money!" Suddenly, a young girl who had just come out of a car burst out screaming. Sylvia looked that way and saw a man in a black jacket quickly dart into an alley nearby. He was holding a purse in his hands. She chased behind him swiftly. "Freeze!" She turned her sadness and anger into strength and used it to crazily chase that robber in the alley. She stepped into the puddles on the ground and made the water splash everywhere. The robber was frightened. He clenched his teeth and ran as quickly as he could. As the distance between Sylvia and the robber shortened to about 10 meters, the robber suddenly turned onto a street at the front. Sylvia followed and prepared to make the turn as well. But suddenly, a young man in a white coat walked into the alley from the other side. Sylvia didn't manage to stop, and as a result, she and the young man bumped into each other. The young man staggered backwards and fell to the ground. Sylvia suffered even worse. Her nose and lips had bumped hard against the man's chest. The sharp pain immediately attacked her, invading her brain and lasting for quite a while. As the pain finally started to fade, she struggled up, walking out of the alley, and took a look around. As she thought, the robber was long gone. She paused for a second, then squatted, buried her head between her knees, and gave way to tears. She couldn't hold it back anymore. No one knew that she was here. She could finally cry as loudly as she wanted, to give vent to the sadness that overstalked in her heart. She had waited for him for such a long time. In the past moment, she decided to give up. It felt like cutting off a part of herself. It hurt. It hurt so much. The man she had knocked to the ground was momentarily dazed. He stood up, dusted off his clothes, and stood there for a short while. And then he walked to her, squatted, and looked at her motionlessly. He didn't know what to do. Sylvia didn't know how long she had cried. Only after she started feeling tired and her legs were even numb because of the squatting position did she wipe her tears with her sleeves and raise her head. Her face was suddenly inches away from another man's. She then fell on her rear end. "What are you doing?" She was shocked when she rubbed her eyes and saw the man clearly. Although the alley was dark, the moon above cast a dim glow on the man's face. His handsome features made the moon pale in comparison. He was wearing a white Nike tracksuit, and his features looked like they were carefully carved. A gift from the gods. His eyes were pure and bright, his lips alluring and perfect. He was watching her quietly, his long lashes framing unblinking eyes. Sylvia was stunned for a moment, but she quickly picked herself up and asked, "What do you want?" The man looked up and blinked, his eyelashes fluttering in the moonlight. Sylvia noticed a dirty patch on his pants and remembered that she had knocked into someone. She quickly said, "Did I bump into you? My apologies, I was chasing after a thief." "Damn, that really hurt. I nearly broke my nose back there." The man stood up and towered over Sylvia. He had a youthful charm. I'll get going then. Goodbye." Sylvia waved her hands and turned to leave. After walking along for a while, she noticed that the man was still following behind her. Although he was a handsome chap, it gave her goosebumps to know that someone was following her in such a dark alley. She stopped in her tracks and turned around. "Are you hurt in any way? Do you want me to compensate you? You'd better think twice if you want to exploit me. I'm a policewoman on duty. I was just doing my job." The man blinked and continued to stare at her quietly. It must have been a minute before Sylvia said sympathetically, You are a mute? What a shame that such a handsome man is mute, she thought to herself. God was fair indeed. She was another example. She had such an envy-worthy background and she was pretty, but her romantic relationship was far from smooth sailing. The man stayed quiet and looked down. He reminded her of the puppy her family had when she was a kid. He was cute, but he wasn't her type. Have you fallen in love with me? Sylvia said softly. Go home. I like strong, manly guys. She turned to leave, but he was still following her. You're harassing me now. Sylvia put her hands on her waist. I told you I don't like you. The man looked down and fished out a writing pad and a pen, and he wrote, I'm lost, in elegant handwriting. Sylvia breathed a sigh of relief. Thank goodness. She had thought he was pestering her for no good reason, after she hadn't knocked the sense out of him after all. Where is your home? Sylvia asked. Do you have your family's number? You can ask them to come pick you up. The man shook his head. He appeared lost and confused. How about your phone? Where's your phone? Sylvia asked agitatedly. The man shook his head once more and wrote, I don't have one. Sylvia was flabbergasted. Who the hell is he? Who doesn't have a phone? She wondered. All right, follow me back to the station, she finally said in exasperation. They emerged from the alley after walking for another 10 minutes. The police car was still in the same spot, and her colleague smiled at her when he saw her. Sylvia, I can't believe how good you are at your job. You managed to catch the thief. Damn, he's a good-looking fellow. Too good-looking to be a thief. Episode 254. She must have known what we were doing up here. He's not the thief. Earlier I bumped into him while chasing the thief. He's lost. After saying that, Sylvia said to her colleagues in a low voice, He's mute. He doesn't know where his home is, and he doesn't have a cell phone. Her colleagues now understood what had happened. A male police officer whispered to her, Sylvia, he's not faking it, is he? Everyone uses cell phones these days. I guess he wants to go after you, and that's a trick he plays. Sylvia was puzzled for a second, then felt that was highly possible. She turned back, pulled a long face, and said to the man, Are you lying to me? The man was confused. Sylvia lost her patience. She directly reached a hand into one of his trouser pockets. Why did you touch me? Benjamin breathed quickly. His heart was thumping. The area between his legs was hurting, so was his lower belly. You're not mute. Sylvia recovered from the shock. Why did you pretend to be mute? Her entire face had turned red. His voice was clear and gentle and pleasant to hear. Benjamin pressed his lips together, took out a sticky note, and wrote, I don't like talking. Sylvia didn't know what to say. Are you crazy? You don't like talking? Do you like writing then? She thought. What is your mouth for? I didn't mean to touch you. I was trying to find out if you have a cell phone in your pockets. Sylvia murmured in explanation. Benjamin lowered his head, put his hands into his pockets, and turned his pockets inside out. Sylvia then understood that he really did not have a phone. With no other choice, she brought him back to the police station. On their way back to the city, a male colleague made a joke. Sylvia, you've touched him. Shouldn't you be responsible for that? Sylvia immediately blushed. Her palms were burning. She even wanted to cut off her hand. Back at the police station, Sylvia brought the man into her office. His outstanding appearance immediately caught people's attention, including all the police officers and suspects. A female officer named Daisy sneaked over to Sylvia and asked, Sylvia, where did you get him? He looks so young and juicy. I'm so aroused. Sylvia speechlessly glanced at her female colleagues who were apparently inexperienced. She explained what had happened, then turned to ask that strange man, Mister, can you please tell me your name? Benjamin shook his head. I'm asking your name. Can you tell me that? Sylvia repeated the question impatiently. After being yelled at, the man's dark eyes showed a trace of grievance. A short while later, he wrote, I can't. Sylvia almost vomited blood. You can't tell me your name? Are you famous or what? She thought. If you don't tell me your name, how am I supposed to contact your family and find out where your home is? They'll find me. He continued writing. Sylvia was relieved. All right, keep your name a secret if you want, as long as you don't worry that it might be quite difficult for your family to find you. It was about time to get off work. Sylvia stayed at the police station for a while, occasionally turning back to look at the man. He was sitting there straight, looking both silly and cute. From time to time, he would raise his head to watch the television that was hanging on the wall. All the females in the station were staring at him. Sylvia shook her head with a sigh. When it was time for her to knock off, she packed her things quickly and got ready to leave. When she walked out the door, the young man followed behind her. She turned to him and said, "Don't follow me. Wait here at the police station for your family to come." Benjamin shook his head. Sylvia was annoyed. How unlucky could she get? She had just lost her relationship and now she had a stalker on her heels. Although he was a handsome fella, she was in no mood to look for another relationship so quickly. "I'm going to have to arrest you for harassing me if you continue this." Benjamin looked down and wrote, "The station is dirty. I don't want to stay here." Sylvia sighed. "You don't have a choice. You don't even want to tell me your name. I can't look for your family, so you have to stay right here." Benjamin shook his head again. "Go, follow someone else then." "Why do you have to follow me? Look over there. My colleague has been staring at you for the longest time now. You can go follow her." Sylvia waved him away. He wrote, "She's not as pretty as you." Sylvia blushed. He was checking her out? She guessed that the world just functioned that way. It was a crime to be so pretty. She sighed and looked at him. She decided to help him out since he was so good looking. She didn't think it was appropriate for her to bring a stranger home at night, so she decided to drive him to the Bennett Villa instead. Only Emily was in the living room. She was shocked to see Sylvia bringing another man there. Sylvia had to explain everything to her before asking, "Where are my brother and April? Shouldn't they come down and welcome their guest?" "They're upstairs." "I'll go up then." Sylvia was quickly stopped by Emily as she said, flustered, "Don't go up. They're probably doing it at this hour." Sylvia was stunned. She quickly burst out into a light chuckle. What a passionate pair. They're staying together, though. Do they have to do it every day? Geesh. Emily hid her grin. They're youthful and energetic. You'll know what it's like once you marry Jeremy. Sylvia's face turned dark at the mention of Jeremy. After tonight, she decided that she should call it quits with him. She couldn't compromise for the rest of her life. It would only bring them both more pain in the future. Suddenly, someone tugged her arm. Benjamin passed her a note that read, "What are they doing?" How was she supposed to respond to that? Does he have to pretend to be so innocent and pure? Does he really not know about these things? Sylvia thought. Why should I tell you? Go and figure it out yourself, Sylvia said awkwardly. He wrote, "I should consult others humbly whenever I'm at a loss." Sylvia was annoyed. She stomped her foot and said, "Make love. Do you understand now? Between a man and a woman, in bed." Benjamin froze for a second before his cheeks turned pink. He nodded and wrote, "I understand now." "Fucking hell, you understand now," Sylvia cursed in her head. Where the hell did this eccentric man come from? Sylvia sighed and plopped herself onto the couch. Emily was munching on some sunflower seeds, and she would occasionally remark to herself, "So good looking," as she stared at the young man. She turned to tell Sylvia, "The more I look at him, the more good looking he gets." Sylvia was speechless. "Emily, I'm sure you've seen plenty of good looking men in your life. You're working for my brother and you see him day in, day out after all. Don't you have a bit of immunity to this guy?" "They are saying you'll get tired of rich food if you have it every day," Emily whispered. "Please don't tell young master that I said so." "Emily, are you saying that you got tired of my brother?" Sylvia thought. "My brother knows you'll die." Half an hour later, Sylvia looked upstairs again. "Why is my brother still not coming down? He didn't fall asleep, did he?" "I'm not sure." Emily shook her head. "But they should have heard the noise of your car when you arrived, whether they were asleep or not, unless they were doing something that needs their full attention." "It's taking too long. I'll go up there and take a look." Sylvia ran upstairs. She slowed down as she got closer to the door of their bedroom. Then she walked to the door, put an ear to the door, and heard April's quavering voice. Oh, my husband. Slow down." Hearing that, Sylvia's heart started thumping. Oh my, it's the first time overhearing something like this. This is so shocking, Sylvia thought. April is always so polite and gentle when I see her, but it turns out she's quite wild in bed. She even called him husband. No wonder my brother is obsessed with her. Like the old saying goes, never judge a book by its cover. Sylvia turned and went back downstairs. On the stairs, she gave a loud shout. Brother, Sang, I came to visit you. In the bedroom, Aaron was startled by suddenly hearing Sylvia's voice. His tightened body shivered as he could not help but finish abruptly. April fell onto the large bed as if she were suddenly relieved. She was bathed in sweat. Then she thought of Sylvia's voice and felt utterly embarrassed. Why is Sylvia here? Oh my God, did she hear us? She remembered that she wasn't controlling her volume and that she just shouted many words which made her feel shameful now. She couldn't remember those exact words, though. Her entire body turned red when she merely thought about what she said during sex. She really wished there was a hole for her to crawl into. She might have heard us, but what's the big deal? She's going to marry somebody sooner or later. Aaron knitted his brows as he was quite unhappy. I could have made it longer, it's all her fault, he said. April blushed scarlet. She even wanted to bite him. Her legs were nearly broken, yet he wanted it to be longer. She didn't know what to do now. Her legs were so limp. If she went downstairs like that, Sylvia would certainly find out. I think I'm not going down. You should just tell her that I'm sleeping. Will she believe that? Aaron raised his brows. I'm tired. If she saw me like this, she'd definitely figure out what we were doing up here. I'd be so embarrassed. April hid in the bed, only exposing her appealing ruby-like cheeks. Aaron really wanted to pounce back on her and give her a couple of bites. She can know it. What's so wrong about that? You're my girlfriend and our making love is a perfectly normal thing, Aaron said carelessly. I'm not going downstairs. April even covered her head with the blanket. With no other choice, Aaron put on his pajamas and went downstairs alone. Seeing the strange man in the living room, his dark eyes immediately wore a grim and meaningful look. Who's he? Your new boyfriend? Bringing him home so soon? Isn't he too much of a sissy? Sylvia was eating sunflower seed. She was planning to tease her brother, but what he said almost made her choke on the sunflower seeds. Brother, what are you talking about? She quickly glanced at Benjamin. The latter was sitting there dully, watching a cheesy TV series about mothers and daughters-in-laws together with Emily, as if he didn't see Aaron at all. Isn't he yours? Is he Emily's boyfriend? The look in Aaron's eyes turned complicated. Episode 255. April's heart nearly melted. Emily's hands trembled. Miss Bennet brought him here. Where could I find such a handsome chap? Aaron nodded and looked at Benjamin. Sylvia, your boyfriend has forgotten his manners. He's not even looking me in the eye. I told you he isn't my boyfriend. Sylvia was exasperated. Nobody was listening to what she was saying. Why did you bring your boyfriend to me anyway? Aaron appeared confused. Are you asking for my approval? I'm cool with anything, but have you talked things out with Jeremy? Didn't he just give you flowers and chocolates yesterday? Sylvia's heart ached at the mention of Jeremy. She felt suffocated. Emily explained everything to Aaron. What kind of oddball is he? Is he trying to hit on you? Is that the reason why he followed you all the way here? People really resort to all sorts of tricks nowadays. Aaron walked towards Benjamin with a stoic face and stared at him sternly. You should be forthright like a real man if you really want to woo my sister. You don't have to resort to such lowly methods. Drop the act that you don't have a phone or you don't talk much. You can't even tell us your name? I must say that your methods are refreshing, almost as interesting as the ones that my woman used. After he finished, Benjamin stood up silently and sat himself down on the other end of the couch and continued watching the television. He just ignored me, Aaron said angrily and raised his brows. He wants to woo you, but he's disrespecting me. He's not trying to woo me, Sylvia said again with frustration. I'm afraid the human mind is more complicated than you think, Aaron continued. Sylvia was exhausted. Anyway, he will be sleeping here tonight. I don't care, whatever. I won't approve of the two of you anyway, Aaron said again. Sylvia sighed. Although this man in front of her was an oddball, her brother was somewhat an oddball himself. Sometimes she wanted to put a plastic bag over his head to stop him from talking. Only April could tolerate him. She couldn't believe Jenica had trouble getting over him after so many years as well. These people had peculiar taste in men. If she had a boyfriend as strange as her brother, it would drive her crazy. I'm only here to notify you. I didn't want you to be shocked when you see him tomorrow. She turned and tugged at Benjamin's sleeve. "Come on, I'll take you to the guest room." Benjamin followed her to the guest room on the ground floor. It was clean and neat. Sylvia said, "There isn't a toilet in this room. It's beneath the stairs outside. Do you need a shower? If so, I'll get some clothes for my brother." Benjamin shook his head. Sylvia nodded in response. "I'm going to bed then. I'll be next door. Don't wander around by yourself and don't go to the second floor." Benjamin nodded. Sylvia walked towards the door and sighed before adding, "If you see my brother and my sister-in-law tomorrow, you should look them in the eye if they speak to you. Acknowledge them by nodding or shaking your head. It would be quite rude to ignore them as you did my brother just now." Benjamin looked lost. He jotted down on his notepad, "Did your brother speak to me just now?" Sylvia was speechless. "He was speaking to you for a while. You didn't hear any of it?" Benjamin shook his head in confusion. Sylvia couldn't help but ask, "How can you hear me talking then?" Benjamin pressed his lips together, then wrote, "You are pretty and your voice is pleasant." After showing the note to Sylvia, he stared straight into her eyes. Sylvia was reminded of the line which was famous on the internet recently. "Oh my God, the teenage girl in my heart is awake." She scratched her own scalp awkwardly, then responded, "I'm going to sleep." Benjamin followed her to the door. Sylvia directly turned back and closed the door for him. Erin went back upstairs sullenly. April had just taken a shower. Seeing him pulling a long face, she asked, "Who made you unhappy?" A few cold words escaped Erin's thin lips. "Sylvia's boyfriend." "Is Jeremy here?" "No, it's a strange man. I've never seen him before." Erin narrowed his eyes and said, "He's so impolite. I talked to him, but he ignored me. He didn't even look at me." April paused for a second, then said, "Stop joking. We heard her talking about Jeremy just a couple of hours ago. It sounds that they're about to get back together." "I'm serious." Erin told her how Sylvia had met Benjamin that night. "I bet he planned all this, because he likes Sylvia. He's pursuing her in this way. I know my sister very well. Sometimes she can be so dumb that I don't even like her. But after all, she and I share the same blood. She's surely much more outstanding than ordinary women, so it's normal for her to have suitors." "I doubt that." April thought for a moment, then said, "Maybe that guy is autistic or has some problem with interpersonal communication. I've read some psychology books about those kinds of issues." "Yeah," Erin frowned. "Then I'll never let Sylvia be with him." April rolled her eyes. "He didn't say that he's pursuing Sylvia, did he?" "Sylvia is so pretty, of course he's pursuing her," said Erin affirmatively. "I'm gonna sleep." April decided not to argue with him. Instead, she pulled up the blanket to cover herself. Erin quickly got into bed, held her, and said, "I'm serious, he's ugly, but more importantly, he has this awful presence." "Mm-hmm." April nodded. She was so sleepy. The next day, they freshened up and went downstairs together. Sylvia was already sitting behind the dinner table listlessly, her head resting on her palms. She had a pair of dark circles under her eyes. "Isn't your guest up yet?" April asked. "He's here," Sylvia continued, pointing behind April with her chin. "He's up. He's freshening up in the bathroom." April turned back to see a tall, slim man. His face was as delicate as a piece of china, and his eyes were as clear as a pool of water. She was a little stunned. Ugly? Awful presence? Erin's words are indeed not trustworthy, she thought. "Why are you looking at him? He's so ugly, there's nothing to look at." Erin turned her face back as she had stared at Benjamin for more than 3 seconds. "He is extremely handsome, okay?" April couldn't help but say so. Erin covered his forehead with a hand. "You think so because you have poor taste. After all, you even fell for Isaac." April turned her head away and saw Benjamin quietly sit beside Sylvia. His thick and curling eyelashes still had tiny drops of water on them. Those water drops even made April's eyes sparkle. He was so pretty. Erin got angry. He glared at Sylvia and said, "When are you going to take him away?" "At least let me finish my breakfast." Sylvia couldn't sleep last night, so she felt as if her brain was swelling now. "Leave after you eat," Erin said mercilessly. "Can you talk nicely to your own sister?" April glared at him just as Emily served them breakfast. She quickly added, Sylvia, ask your friend to have breakfast.
He's not my friend.
Sylvia grimaced, but she turned to Benjamin and said, Go on, you can eat whatever you want. Benjamin finally looked like he had heard someone and started digging in like an obedient child. April's heart nearly melted at the sight of him. She picked up a cob of corn to put on his plate. Suddenly, she heard chopsticks cracking and felt a wave of hostility emanating towards her. She froze and quickly turned to place the corn in Aaron's bowl. Go on, I was just stretching my arms, she said quickly. Aaron grunted in satisfaction and began munching on the corn. Sylvia couldn't stand the sight of her brother, so she covered her eyes as she continued eating. She turned to see Benjamin eat a sushi with his chopsticks. He looked prim and proper. The food looked delicious as he sank his teeth into little bites. April noticed it too. He looked like he had been brought up in a good environment. After finishing one, he went on to the next and the next. He was only eating sushi. April said, Don't just eat sushi. You can try the rest as well. Emily cooks everything well. Benjamin continued eating as if he hadn't heard her. Sylvia nudged him and said, My sister-in-law is talking to you. She's telling you to try other things. Benjamin finally looked up and locked eyes with April. He blinked a couple of times before writing on his notepad, Thank you, sister-in-law. April nearly choked on her soy milk. She thought that it made her sound old whenever Sylvia called her that. It was worse when he addressed her as sister-in-law. She felt like a proper old auntie. It was ridiculous, as she was probably younger than all of them at the table. What was his relationship to Sylvia anyway, for him to address her that way too? Sylvia also noticed it, and her expression was grim. She's my sister-in-law, not yours. Why did you call her that? Benjamin was in a daze for a while before writing. I didn't call her that. I wrote it. This guy really had a problem. Either that or he was really good at pretending. You're not allowed to write it either, Sylvia said through gritted teeth. Benjamin looked down and continued having his meal. Sylvia sighed exasperatedly. April was chuckling loudly. She thought that the man was interesting. He would bring them a lot more joy if he became Sylvia's boyfriend in the future. When he cleared the entire plate, Sylvia asked incredulously, Can't you try something else? Do you only eat sushi? Benjamin wrote, I eat rice too. Sylvia was getting tired of talking to him. She was quite depressed after what happened with Jeremy. This man in front of her was driving her nuts, and she was properly emotionally exhausted. He looked weak and gentle. That's why she took pity on him. After having her food, April headed downstairs to wash her hands, and she noticed a men's watch by the sink. It was a black leather strap watch with a constellation pattern in the center. Very pretty. There were many different subdials within the main dial, and looking at it made her dizzy. There was a second-hand dial, dials for different time zones, a timer, a moon phase dial, and many more that she couldn't recognize. Episode 256. Let's Be Friends. She honestly admired the person who had crafted that watch. She hadn't seen Aaron wearing a watch like that, so it should be... April brought the watch out of the bathroom, put it before Benjamin's face, and asked him, Is this yours? He silently glanced at the watch, then took it and put it on. After that, he turned away and looked outside at the sky. You have a special watch, said April. Benjamin didn't look at her but kept gazing at the sky. My sister-in-law is talking to you, said Sylvia loudly. She said that your watch is special. Benjamin abruptly gave a faint smile. His eyes curved like a pair of crescents and sparkled like stars that could light up the night sky. Sylvia was even stunned by his smile. He normally looked adorable, but his smile could even make thousands of young girls fall for him. Then he took out the notepad and wrote, I'll give it to you if you like. April's mouth popped open in surprise. Sylvia hadn't seen that coming. I didn't say that I liked it. I was talking about my sister-in-law. Benjamin glanced at April, then frowned, shook his head, and wrote, I won't give it to her. April was a little speechless. Suddenly she understood how Sylvia must have felt when Aaron wasn't nice to her. Were they showing off how good their relationship was? Aaron sneered. It's nothing but a watch. What's the big deal? If you like it, I'll buy you one tonight. That's not an ordinary watch, said April. It's worth $6 million at least. Sylvia was shocked. She hadn't paid attention to the watch earlier. She wanted to look at it closely now, but she couldn't, as it was covered by Benjamin's sleeve. April, are you sure? She asked. She couldn't believe that a man in sportswear was actually wearing such an expensive watch. 6 million is only a conservative number, April smiled. Most importantly, you may not be able to buy a watch like that, no matter how rich you are. Its design is way too complicated. I've never seen a watch like that. She turned to Aaron, who had knitted his brows into a frown, then continued. I can say that you won't be able to find a watch like that in any store, even if you offer 10 million for it. I'll offer 100 million then, said Aaron carelessly. April gave him a fake smile, then said to Sylvia, He didn't even look at me. It seems that you're quite special to him. Plus, he was going to give you such an expensive watch without even thinking. Sylvia rolled her eyes. We didn't know each other until last night. How special can I possibly be to him? But he did say that I'm pretty and my voice is pleasant. April laughed. Am I not pretty? Is my voice unpleasant? He has problematic taste. Aaron snorted coldly while sipping his coffee. You're way prettier than Sylvia, and your voice is so beautiful that you could even try to become one of the biggest singers in Capital. I'm sitting right here. How can you talk about me like that? Sylvia suddenly felt that even the man whom she had met last night was way better than her brother. Derek came in, looked at Benjamin, and said, Young master, there are 2 people at the door asking to see a gentleman. They said that he's in here. My God, his family finally showed up. I was worried that I might need to bring him to work today. Sylvia hurriedly patted her chest. Let them in. 5 minutes later, 2 tall, strong men walked in. One of them was even as muscular as Vin Diesel. The other one was wearing a brown coat and was around 40 years old. He looked gentle and polite. Seeing Benjamin, both of them sighed in relief. Good to see you. The elegant-looking man stepped forward, smiled mildly, and said, We are here to pick up Benjamin. Thank you all for taking care of him. Hello. One of the more poised gentlemen stepped forward with a smile. I am here to pick up our young master. Thank you all for taking care of him. Are you his family? Sylvia stood up quickly. What were you guys doing? It took you so long to come after he was missing for an entire night. He has such a poor sense of direction, and he gets lost so easily. You should get him a phone. He's a grown-up after all. I'm sorry, our young master never uses a phone. The middle-aged man said apologetically. Can't you change that? Sylvia frowned. Lucky for him, he bumped into me last night. If he had bumped into a bunch of bloodthirsty female leechers instead, he would have been locked up in someone's basement by now. You wouldn't be able to find him then. We would be able to find him. The man smiled. Our young master has a tracking device in his watch. We would be able to find him no matter where he was. We didn't know that he had left the house last night. We only realized he was gone in the morning. Sylvia was speechless. Were they filming their own 007 Bond movie? April was right. That was no ordinary watch. Sorry to bother you all anyway. The man stepped forward and patted Benjamin's back. He turned and nodded at the middle-aged man. We should return, young master, the middle-aged man said softly. Benjamin's delicate brows furrowed into a frown. He stood up and walked toward Sylvia. When he walked past her, he gave her a note that read, Goodbye, I will miss you. Sylvia blushed. They had only just met, but he made their relationship sound so flirtatious. There sure are many crazy people out there, Sylvia thought. All right, I know. Hurry along. Don't wander around by yourself again, Sylvia said helplessly. Benjamin nodded as he followed the men out the door. After taking a few steps, he turned to glance at Sylvia again before walking on. April giggled. Why do I get the feeling that he's in love with you? I guess it's love at first sight. He's going to miss you so much. What an innocent boy. Aaron frowned and said grumpily, He has to use notepads to express himself. You're going to be so exhausted if you date him. You might become a mute yourself. He's not actually mute, April replied. Perhaps if you spend more time with him, or if he meets a girl whom he is willing to change for, he might actually speak. Just stay away from him, Aaron said casually. I noticed a bulge in the pocket of the big burly man that came to get him. It was shaped like a gun. He must either be an agent or a cop. Come on, you're reading too much into this, Sylvia said incredulously. She was a cop herself. She knew what kind of people were equipped with guns in the Capitol. I do hope that I read too much into it, but I noticed calluses on his index, middle, and ring fingers too. Those are formed when you use a gun often.
I used to have them too when I was in the special forces. Aaron paused and added, That young guy has a smell on him too, if you noticed.
He smells like disinfectant solution, Sylvia suddenly remembered.
Yeah. What does he do that requires frequent contact with disinfectant solutions? He either works in a hospital or works in a lab. I dare say he works for the country since he's protected by agents carrying guns, Aaron concluded.
No way.
Sylvia didn't seem to believe it.
I don't think that guy's brain is working so well. Some strange people whose brains work in odd ways can be especially gifted in certain areas.
April had a quite deep understanding about that.
She silently gave Aaron a glance. She was trying to tell Sylvia that her brother was a strange man like that.
Sylvia was enlightened. That did make sense.
Sylvia arrived at the police station, changed into her uniform, then went out on patrol until 11 o'clock. When she returned, her colleagues who were leaving the station said to her jokingly,
Sylvia, your boyfriend is here to see you again.
Sylvia instantly got a lump in her throat. She took a few deep breaths, then walked into the station. Jeremy was in her office, putting a bunch of white roses on her desk. As she came in, he raised his head and showed a smile on his chiseled face.
You're back. Let's have lunch together.
I'm not going.
Sylvia lowered her head and sat on the chair and said, You should go back.
Jeremy grasped her wrist and said in a low voice,
Sylvia, I'm about to leave. I want to seize all the time we have now.
Looking at Jeremy's slim fingers on her wrist, Sylvia's heart was filled with sadness. Yeah, since you think that we should cherish all the time we have, why did you spend that night with Jenica instead of me? She thought. Perhaps you do cherish being together, but it's not as important as Jenica. Speaking of which, Sylvia clenched her teeth and raised her head to look straight at Jeremy's handsome face. Jeremy, do you remember what I said last time when I canceled our engagement? I said that we should both carefully think about if we should be together or not. I've thought about it really carefully. I think we're probably not a good match for each other. This is it. Let's be friends. Jeremy paused briefly, then said,
Didn't you say that because you were mad? Please stop this. Are you angry again because I didn't come here last night when you asked me to? I was in the middle of something.
Yeah, you were in the middle of something. You were with Jenica, weren't you? I know that. Sylvia nodded, trying very hard to stop her tears from streaming out of her eyes. Last night I was watching you when I called you. Jeremy froze for a moment. An embarrassed look flashed across his face.
Jenica has been pursuing Aaron these past few days. Yesterday, April went to Aaron's company and said some really mean things to her. She was sad, so she got drunk. She hasn't been back in Rosewood City for long, so she doesn't have other friends, and her parents have divorced. I couldn't leave her alone. It's really dangerous for a girl to get drunk alone out there.
Sylvia stood up and asked, Did you have to lie to me about that?
Last time you were unhappy about Jenica because of the maid of honor thing. I didn't want you to be unhappy again, so I lied.
Jeremy explained in a low voice.
There's nothing going on between Jenica and me. She likes your brother.
Yeah, she likes my brother, but what if she liked you? And what if she pursued you? Would you remain unmoved? Sylvia couldn't help but ask.
Sylvia, you're being unreasonable.
Jeremy frowned.
Jenica and I are just friends. How could she ever pursue me?
You wouldn't be unmoved because you always praised her when we were little. You were injured, all the others knew about it, including Jenica, but not me. Sylvia was full of sadness. She was out there and drinking. You could have told me that. She's my friend and we grew up together. Don't I care about her safety? Would I ever be so mean to her? Jeremy, you never know me. There is a problem between us. A big problem. Episode 257. April, tell me the truth. Are you feeling it tonight?
Yes, I see our problems more clearly now, Sylvia. Can you please be more rational? I respected you even when you called off our engagement so hastily, even when it brought shame to my family. What else do you want from me? To stop being friends with Jenica? Don't you think you're being a little unreasonable? We are all friends, after all. You weren't like this before.
Sylvia's eyes welled up in tears. She had wanted to break it off peacefully. Right now, everything he said cut deep like a razor. All right, you can treat it as if I'm the one being unreasonable. Let's break up officially. Since you can't stand for me any longer, don't buy me these things in the future. Sylvia sat down on the chair away from him. You can take some time to cool down then. Jeremy looked back at her helplessly. I'm going to make a move. I'm not talking about taking a break. I want to break up with you. Sylvia was shaking. Her limbs and her torso felt weak. Before Jeremy could say anything further, she continued. You should give your good friend Jenica a bit of advice, too. Tell her to stop bothering my brother. I heard from April that she did all sorts of antics from balloons to advertising screens to confess her feelings to him. The whole company is talking about it. He already has a girlfriend. Jeremy felt uncomfortable at the mention of April. He thought that she was purely seducing Aaron with her body. Before he could voice his opinions on the matter, he stopped himself. Since the situation was as bad as it was between them, it would only make Sylvia angrier. One thing was for certain, they had differing opinions when it came to Aaron. Let's talk about it after I'm transferred back. He quickly marched off. Sylvia felt like someone had torn her heart in half as his footsteps slowly faded away. If only she could compromise on certain things, if only she could have a bigger heart, they might not have ended up this way. But the more she loved him, the more jealous she got, especially after observing how Aaron treated April. She thought about a man who would put her first in all scenarios, someone who would spoil her and love her unconditionally. Jeremy wasn't that man. Even when it came to breaking off their engagement and breaking up, he kept his cool. Maybe if she loved him a little less, they might be happy together. In the following days, April went to school in the mornings and voice acted at the company in the afternoons. She didn't knock off from work until midnight every day. If he wasn't busy, Aaron would appear at the recording studio at 11 o'clock every night to wait for her. He would bring her lots of food every time he was there. April's colleagues had the initial impression that he would distribute the food to the crew as supper. They soon realized that the food was meant for April and April only. He always handed it straight to her, and he had no intention of sharing it with the rest of the crew. Whenever April tried to hand out the food, Aaron would stop her. I only brought enough for you, he would say. The other voice actors were shocked. He brought plenty of food with him, 2 whole bags to be exact. Brandon said, I didn't know you had such a big appetite. I couldn't tell from all the times we ate together. April would blush when people made remarks like that, and she would glare at Aaron. It was embarrassing to let others know how much she could eat. It's all right, let's all share. He only thinks that I can eat so much, April replied. Really? Didn't you finish all the food last night? I had to buy more today, Aaron said. April was so embarrassed that she even wanted to kill herself. It's all right, you can eat it, one of the colleagues hurriedly said. You work the most, so you've consumed the most energy. You should eat more than we do. Aaron put his arms around her shoulders. Let's go. You can eat on our way back and then go to sleep when we get home. They got into the car. There were only a few cars on the road as it was already midnight. April opened the boxes. There were steamed buns with custard and egg yolk filling, chicken feet, and a rice noodle roll. The dessert was chocolate cake with apricot jam. Recently, as Aaron brought food to her almost every single day, she was quite touched indeed. After all, he had been trying pretty hard to surprise her with all different types of food. Next time when you bring food to me, instead of bringing it upstairs, maybe you should just leave it in the car. It's quite embarrassing that we let my colleagues see the food without sharing it with them, April said helplessly. Aaron paused for a second, as he didn't understand why. Why is that embarrassing? I never thought about sharing my food with others when I eat in my office. They can ask their boyfriends to bring them food too, if they want some. Are you the same as us? You're the CEO. It's a normal thing for people to share food with their colleagues, April said while eating the rice noodle roll. It's midnight. Actually, you don't need to stay up so late with me every day to pick me up. as you need to go to work early in the morning. This is too exhausting for you." Aaron gave her a sad glance and said,
"But I get even more tired when I can't see you."
April felt sweet. In fact, many other female voice actors were jealous of her for having such a great boyfriend. None of their boyfriends came to pick them up after work every day. Some of their boyfriends only showed up a few times, and they weren't as handsome and rich as Aaron was.
"You have classes every morning at about 8 o'clock. Can you cope with it?"
Aaron continued.
"You actually don't need to go to class every single day, as some classes aren't really important. Besides, you are already very good at voice acting, and you have officially started your career already, so you don't need to go to school every day. After all, hasn't Winnie been asking for leave a lot recently?"
"We're different. She needs to travel all over the country, but my job is located in Rosewood City. I won't miss a class unless I have to. It's always good to learn more." April took a sip of the juice and said, "We've been learning acting lately. I want to learn more about it. Although I'm not going to be an actor, we can still use some acting skills when we do voice acting." Aaron frowned. He did want his girlfriend to be more knowledgeable, but it could also give him a headache when she worked too hard.
"When will you stop being busy?"
he asked. "In about half a month," she answered.
"The 3rd day of next month, can you ask for leave that night?"
Aaron said.
"That day is my grandma's birthday. I want to take you to see her."
April hurriedly swallowed the juice in her mouth. Her eyes popped open wide as she stared at Aaron. David didn't like her. So now she felt that going to the Bennett family was no different from going to an extremely dangerous place.
"I was going to take you home at New Year's, but we were having a fight at that time,"
Aaron continued while driving.
"Anyhow, you need to meet the rest of my family sooner or later. Don't worry, my grandparents aren't like my father."
April thought for a moment, but still shook her head. "Even though we're going to get married, we need to wait at least until I've graduated and found a stable job. We can do that next year or the year after that. I don't want to meet your other family so early. At least for now, your father is not going to accept me. We may as well wait for 1 or 2 years. I'll meet your family when your father is proved to be innocent. By then, I'll be able to face them with no shame. Didn't you say it'll only take half a year for us to find those people who made false statements and framed my father?" Aaron pursed his lips and thought. April added, "The last time I bumped into your dad at the hospital, he directly told me to leave you alone. I don't think he would be kind to me if I married into the family now."
"All right."
Aaron couldn't stand the thought of his woman being bullied.
He wouldn't be able to be by her side all night during the wedding to protect her either.
If Kenneth Bennett's name was cleared, David wouldn't be able to disagree anymore.
"I don't know what to get my grandma, though. You have to go with me."
"No problem." April smiled and held his hand. He was staying over at April's apartment at night. When they entered the elevator, April suddenly wriggled herself into his arms after he pressed the buttons. She wrapped her arms around his neck tenderly. He froze and looked down. The woman in front of him was coy and embarrassed. He was stunned and his eyes darkened.
"Are you seducing me in the elevator in the middle of the night? I might swallow you whole the moment we enter the apartment."
He had been in agony recently. She came home so tired every night, he didn't want to bother her, especially after what happened the last time. So, he had to rely on cold showers and himself to quench his thirst. April bit her lower lip and whispered shyly, "I'll satisfy you tonight since you've been behaving so well lately." It was rare for her to offer herself. Aaron's chest felt like it had been lit on fire. His heartbeat was racing, and the air around him felt hot. He was already turned on just by hugging her. April felt his member beneath, and she was a little speechless. She hadn't even kissed him yet. He was in such a rush. However, she was used to his quick pacing. The elevator dinged and it was their stop. Aaron carried her out and shook his head.
"No, you're so tired tonight and you have class early in the morning tomorrow. You even lost some weight despite how much you're eating."
What a considerate gentleman. April was touched and clutched his arm tightly. It's all right. Just one time. Aaron looked down and locked eyes with her for a while before his lips curled into a grin.
April, tell me the truth. Are you feeling it tonight?
Only you are feeling it. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. April was blushing from embarrassment. She pushed him away and opened the door with her keys. The moment the door opened, he swooped her up from behind. Aaron planted hot kisses on her earlobes and she felt her legs go weak. He turned her body around and shut her mouth with feverish kisses. He closed the door with one hand and grabbed her neck with the other. They kicked off their shoes and their lips remained locked. He was greedy for the taste of her. The moment their bodies met, he felt the warmth spread within him, between moans and gasps. He lifted April and she straddled his waist. She tightened her arms around his neck. Aaron hastily carried her to the dining table. You want to do it here? April was shaking. Although Yansu wasn't around tonight, she was embarrassed to make love in such a public area.
Why not?
Aaron plundered her mouth with his own and continued kissing her urgently. She was left with no strength to object. Aaron ravished April on the dining table. He finished faster than usual, probably because they were in a new place and because he had been deprived for a while now. Episode 258. This is Jenica, our new instructor. After finishing, April felt extremely ashamed when she looked at the clothes on the table and the floor. She believed that she would never be able to eat calmly on this table again. Aaron carried her into the bathroom, and they had a quick shower together. When they came out of the bathroom, it was already 1 o'clock in the morning. April couldn't even keep her eyes open, but she still kicked Aaron and muttered, "Go and pick up the clothes in the dining room."
"I'll do it tomorrow."
Aaron was so sleepy that he didn't want to move at all.
"Your friend's not home anyway."
"Go." April pushed him. "Winnie might come home tomorrow morning. If she sees those clothes, I won't be able to face her ever again." Aaron gave in and went out with a sleepy face to pick up their clothes. Once he opened the bedroom door, he saw that the light in the bathroom was on. He walked over and saw Winnie come out from the bathroom. Seeing Aaron, her face blushed scarlet. I just woke up. I needed to use the bathroom, but I don't know what happened here earlier." After saying that, she quickly went back into her own room. Aaron was a little speechless. He stood there for a short while, then turned, picked up the clothes under the dining table, and walked back to April's room. By then, April had already fallen asleep. The next day, the alarm on April's phone woke them up. As class was going to start in 40 minutes, April hurriedly got up from the bed and put on her clothes. Aaron slowly sat up, watched her get dressed, and said,
"I almost forgot to tell you last night. Your friend was home."
April slowly turned around, blinked, and looked at the drowsy-looking man behind her. "I must be dreaming," she said to herself. "I'm still asleep, so all this is not real."
"I saw her when you sent me out there to pick up our clothes,"
Aaron continued. April couldn't think of a word to say. She only wished that she could fall unconscious and never wake up. They have made such loud noises in the dining room last night, and she assumed that Winnie had heard all of them. She remembered that the wall between Winnie's room and the dining room had been replaced by a cabinet. All sound isolation board was put on the cabinet, but the soundproofing effect was not ideal.
"It's okay."
Aaron stroked April's hair with composure as he said,
"Maybe she was in a deep sleep and didn't hear us."
"It's all your fault. Why did you have to do it in the dining room?" April angrily slapped his hand away and said, "We have a bed, but you wanted some excitement. Now I can't face Winnie." She clearly remembered that she hadn't tried to control her volume last night and that she said many words that made her feel so ashamed now.
"I don't think it's a big deal. Doesn't she have a boyfriend too?"
Aaron said calmly. April covered her face with a cloth. What made her a little relieved was that when she finally gathered the courage to go out of her bedroom, she found that Winnie had already left. Winnie was such a thoughtful roommate. Normally, she rarely left without April. However, she seemed to clearly understand that April would feel embarrassed. At lunchtime, April ran into Winnie after buying her meal. "Winnie, why didn't you invite me to have lunch with you?" April started the conversation awkwardly. Winnie carried her meal and responded unnaturally. "I thought you left for the recording studio." "Let's eat together," April said. The two of them sat down. April stayed silent for a short while, then said, "Were you home last night?" Winnie choked on the rice and coughed violently. When she finally recovered, she said, "I was going to spend the night over there, but I ended early at around 9, so I took the earliest flight back." April did some mental calculations. Winnie must have gotten home just a bit earlier than they did last night. She must have heard everything then. She quickly buried her head back into her bowl. Winnie decided to address the elephant in the room to ease the atmosphere. "Don't worry, I was drifting in and out of sleep by then. I couldn't hear you guys clearly." How did she know what they were doing if she hadn't heard them clearly? April was blushing bright red. "I'm sorry. I won't bring him over again." "It's fine, really. It was my fault for not texting you before I headed home." Winnie covered her mouth to hide a giggle. "Who knew you still had the energy to do it after coming home so late last night? You guys were so energetic and passionate." And she said she hadn't heard them clearly. April was humiliated. "All right, let's stop talking about it." Winnie could tell how awkward she felt and decided to end the discussion. But she couldn't help but say, "But you guys were so urgent last night. Remember to always use protection. You don't want to get pregnant since you're still in school, after all." April sighed. She had lost all her dignity already. "I thought you said you didn't hear us clearly. How did you know that we were urgent?" "I guessed it. Just a guess." Winnie dug into her meal quickly. "Don't worry, it was a safe day last night." April looked at her and stuttered. "Oh, right. The new song that you released on New Year's Eve is pretty good. It's already top 10 on Billboard chart. You're so good." They found a good composer. Winnie was happy at the mention of her song. "All the resources originally belonged to Mary. I struck gold when I landed such a good deal. All thanks to you, of course." "Speaking of her, do you know what she's up to after going to Paris?" April asked suddenly. "I thought she would fly back immediately after seeing the Academy in real life. I thought she would come looking for trouble again, but I haven't heard anything from her in a while. Do you think she still dares to come to you to look for trouble?" Winnie asked. "I heard from my boss that Kathy and her family are receiving a pathetic sum for their salary in YCC Corporation now. They don't have any actual power now, and no one is willing to do business with them in the industry. When Mary came back from the new year, Kathy wanted to help her debut as an artist here, but no one was willing to help them. They won't dare to come to you again. If they anger Aaron again, they will probably lose their jobs at YCC Corporation." April was shocked. Aaron hadn't told her any of that. On the 2nd of the month, April took 2 hours off work to pick out a calligraphy piece for Aaron's grandmother with him. On the 3rd of the month, April was in the recording studio at 5 o'clock. One of the crew members carried a bag of bento boxes into the studio. "Come eat. We'll continue after the break." April walked over with the rest of the members. When they were all sitting around the table, they began complaining about some of the actors' poor acting. "They can't even act properly, but they get higher pay than all of us," one of the voice actors complained. "We work tirelessly as their voice actors, but only get a fraction of their salary, only enough for them to wipe their ass with." April listened silently, nodding from time to time. Suzanne Walker, the girl who did the voice of a supporting female character, said, "Honestly, we are all average looking, but April, you're so good at acting and so pretty. Why do you insist on working behind the screen? It's such a waste." "I agree. You see, Rosaria isn't as pretty as you are, but still she became a star," said Suzanne. "Well, I think she's indecent. Was staying with Isaac not good enough? She cheated on him and now she's miserable. Although the Magma Group now has problems too, a star of camel is still bigger than a horse. Being a star can make you rich, but many problems will occur when you become famous. We are much freer than those stars. April smiled. That is true. You're basically carefree. All you need to do is cherish your handsome and rich boyfriend. You don't need to strive so hard for a place in the entertainment industry. Suzanne sighed. The entertainment industry is all about money. Let's take Rosaria as an example. She's used to her luxurious lifestyle, but now she can't get any jobs. So she became Mr. Clark's mistress. We know about that, said Brandon. Last time Director Brown saw them in a restaurant. There's something you don't know yet. Here is the shocking news, said Suzanne mysteriously. I heard from a friend of mine who's a journalist that last week, Rosaria was taken to the hospital at night. It said that there was a large wound in her private area, which even needed to be stitched. The Clark family's people managed to keep that secret. April was so shocked that she even forgot to swallow the food in her mouth. That Mr. Clark is so sick. Brandon was surprised. How much does Rosaria love money? Does she have to do that to herself? We don't understand either. In the worst case, she could just leave the entertainment industry. I guess she's just unwilling to give up that glorious life, so she had no choice but to fall into hell. Suzanne sighed again and said, Mr. Clark is rich indeed, but is also famous for being sick. His marriage with his wife exists in name only. Brandon waved a hand and said with dislike, All right, let's stop talking about these kind of things. They're just too negative. After dinner, April called Aaron. The call wasn't answered. Tonight was his grandma's birthday party, so she guessed that he would be busy greeting the guests at this time. She heard that this was his grandma's 80th birthday and that many guests would attend the dinner party. Nash Grand Hotel, 4th floor. Aaron and his cousins were welcoming guests at the entrance. Aaron's grandma had 3 children who worked in either the military world or the business world. Originally, they only planned to book a few tables and hold a small party with their family and friends to celebrate their mother's 80th birthday. But the news somehow spread and quite a few uninvited guests showed up to offer birthday felicitations. Aaron arranged a seat for a guest, then turned around and saw Captain Daniel from the Armed Police Corps walk over with Jenica. Aaron, you're more and more handsome. Captain Daniel laughed. This is Jenica, our new instructor. Uncle Daniel, Miss Jenica, please come in and have a seat. Aaron politely nodded at Jenica and said, My father is over there. I'm going to go and say hi to your grandma first. Captain Daniel walked in with Jenica. Looking at Jenica's back, Aaron frowned slightly. One of his cousins patted him on the shoulder and said, the military world is small. We can't do a thing about it. Aaron nodded and replied, I'll leave this area to you. I'm going to go inside to offer seats to the guest. Go. His cousin waved a hand. At 6 o'clock, Aaron sat down at the head table, glancing at all the guests. The look in his eyes suddenly changed when he saw Rosaria. Episode 259. Louis, the Bennett family owes you. Why did Clark bring that woman here? Aaron grabbed his cousin beside him agitatedly. His cousin looked over and said, I heard he brings her wherever he goes to show off, I guess. She was a top actress just a few years back, after all. Now she's his woman. He acts impudently towards her and hurls verbal abuse and physical abuse as and when he pleases. What about his wife? How can she stand him bringing his mistress to my grandma's birthday party? What kind of joke is this? Aaron was repulsed. Heyo! Their marriage is only valid on paper. They haven't gotten a divorce, but they haven't lived together for years. Mr. Clark hit her whenever he was drunk, so she moved out long ago. I heard this from my dad. His cousin remarked.
If you want him to come with his wife, that won't be possible.
Aaron was disgusted. When the dinner started, most of the guests came forward to greet the old lady. The old lady had had several glasses of fruit juice and needed to use the washroom. His second aunt accompanied her. Aaron was toasting several old employees of the company when he suddenly heard a loud shriek, "Murder! Murder!" The party was abruptly halted. The Bennett family looked worried. They knew the voice. "It's second aunt," Sylvia shouted. "She went to the washroom with Grandma." Aaron kicked the chair away and dashed towards the sound. He bumped straight into second aunt, who was in panic. Her hands were stained with fresh blood. She looked relieved when she saw Aaron and grabbed his hand frantically. "In the washroom, there's a crazy woman. She has a knife. Someone is hurt. Grandma is still inside."
"How can you leave Grandma inside?"
Aaron pushed her aside angrily and dashed into the bathroom. Blood was everywhere, and the old lady was struggling on the ground. Jenica leaned against the sink feebly. There was a gaping wound on her abdomen that was bleeding profusely. She had multiple gashes across her arms as well. A lady in a red trench coat was still waving a knife dangerously at the old lady. Jenica kicked the lady's back, but she was injured and her strength limited. The lady turned to plunge the knife into Jenica. Aaron recognized her face instantly. Rosaria. The crazy woman was Rosaria. He acted quickly and rushed forward to pin her down onto the ground. "Let me go! I'm going to kill all of you! You caused me great misery! How can April have all the happiness in the world? She's the reason I'm in this sorry state today. I am going to ruin her! I won't ever allow her to be happy! I am going to seek revenge! I'm going to kill all of Aaron's family today!" Rosaria shouted at the top of her lungs. Aaron knocked her out with the handle of the knife. In the meantime, Sylvia and David had rushed there too. "Jenica!" Sylvia was shocked. She quickly stepped forward to support her. Jenica clutched Sylvia's hands, slowly slid to the floor, and lost consciousness. "Quick! Save her!" Grandma Bennett said feebly. "If she hadn't taken the knife from me, it would have been my death anniversary today." Aaron called the ambulance immediately and notified the police as well. There were doctors present among the guests, and they quickly stepped forward to stop the bleeding. When the ambulance came, Jenica and Grandma were quickly brought to the hospital. Grandma only suffered mild injuries. She had sprained her ankle when she fell to the ground. However, Jenica was in a critical state. At the hospital, second uncle was grabbing onto second aunt and shouting angrily, "How could you leave Grandma in there and run away to safety by yourself?" His aunt was still frightened. Her legs kept shaking as she murmured, "I was so scared. That woman is crazy. She stabbed Jenica, then tried to kill Mom. I pushed her, and then she came at me crazily. My mind went blank, so I ran away."
"All right, Uncle, calm down."
Aaron pulled his uncle away, then asked his aunt with a cold look,
"Auntie, can you make it clearer? As far as I know, Rosaria never learned martial arts. Jenica used to be a soldier. How could she be injured so easily?"
His aunt took a sip of water, then explained, trembling, "I escorted Mom to the washroom. We bumped into Jenica when we came out. We had a short conversation, and then Rosaria came over. She had a weird look at that time, but she's a guest after all. Suddenly, she reached out her hands towards your grandma's neck while saying that it's because she's Aaron's grandma and that April ruined her happiness, so she'll ruin hers too, and that she's going to kill everyone from the Bennett family." Jenica took her down as the situation was not good and then started calling the police. However, that psychopath actually took out a knife from her purse and stabbed Jenica in the stomach. Both your grandma and I were freaked out. We tried to run, but Rosaria pulled the knife out to attack us. Thankfully, Jenica risked her own life to stop her, and then I got a chance to run.
"April, so this is because of the woman you're with?"
David was infuriated. He grabbed Aaron's sleeve and kicked him, yelling,
"I've told you that woman is no good. You refused to listen to me and insisted on being with her. Now this kind of crap happened on your grandma's 80th birthday, If Jenica weren't here, today would be the day your grandma died.
Aaron didn't fight back. Sylvia stepped forward and said, Dad, I think we should blame the one who brought Rosaria here. We don't know her at all. Uncle Clark shouldn't have brought that psychopath in here.
Oh my, Miss Bennet. How was I supposed to know that she hates Mr. Bennet's girlfriend?
Mr. Clark hurriedly tried to explain himself.
Now, I've figured it out. She's been trying so hard to get close to me. Maybe that's because she wants to get revenge on Mr. Bennet. Mr. Bennet's girlfriend is her enemy. She's clearly trying to ruin her enemy's happiness. Also, I wasn't going to bring her here, but she begged me.
He clicked his tongue, then continued.
Mr. Bennet, please be careful when you have a new girlfriend. Your girlfriend has put me in serious trouble this time.
Aaron couldn't bear listening to him. Instead, he punched Clark in the face and said,
Damn you!
Watch your mouth. What are you? You've never treated women like people. I've witnessed you beat her like a dog in a public place. Perhaps she did this on my grandma's birthday party because you've been torturing her. Suffering that punch, Clark bumped against the wall. He covered his face, moaned in pain, and said,
That is not fair. If she wanted to get revenge on me, she could have directly gone to my family. Why would she do it to your family? Aaron, we all heard her calling April's name when we got in there.
Aaron's uncle joined the conversation with a frown. Aaron's sharp eyes glowed with a cold light. His chest heaved in anger.
The police will surely find out the exact cause of this,
he said. Yeah, now Jenica's safety is the most important thing. Sylvia hurriedly changed the topic. I've already informed Uncle Lewis about what happened. David paused for a second, then said, embarrassed.
Damn, your Uncle Lewis will want me to die.
The old man glared at him and said,
He should hate you. You broke their family up and now Jenica's like this. You better pray that she pulls through or Mr. Lewis will definitely kill you.
David was aghast. Second aunt said, Although Jenica has broken up with Aaron, she is still so loyal and kind. She was defending us, even when she was so badly injured. I don't think Grandma and I would have survived tonight if not for her. Aaron frowned without speaking a word. After half an hour, a series of footsteps could be heard, and Mr. Lewis appeared down the hallway. He looked angry and grim as he shouted,
How's Jenica?
Uncle Lewis. Aaron was the first to stand and address him.
She's still under anesthesia.
Lewis clenched his fist and asked with a deep growl,
How long has it been?
It's already been 50 minutes.
Lewis yelled, How seriously injured is she? She was stabbed in the abdomen. I'm not sure about the rest.
Aaron answered in a low voice. Lewis was silent for half a minute before he turned and pounced on David.
David, I count myself unlucky to have a brother like you. How could you hurt my precious daughter as well? How could you do that to my only daughter? Lewis, calm down,
David said as Lewis continued throwing punches at him. He didn't dare to return his punches. Second uncle stepped forward to pull the two of them apart.
Lewis, let's not make a scene in the hospital. Let's not affect the doctors who are still doing their best in there. There were doctors at the banquet who helped her just now, too. She will be fine.
Lewis grasped for air before collapsing weakly on the bench by the wall. He covered his eyes with his hands. After a while, Esma arrived as well. She sat in the chair and began sobbing. The atmosphere was heavy. The operation theater light went off only after another hour. Doctor, how is the patient? Esma rushed forward and asked amid tears. We already closed the wounds. Her life is not in any danger at the moment, but she still needs to be in critical care. The next 3 days will be important to optimize her recovery, the doctor said. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. But, the doctor frowned, there were a total of 4 gashes on her body. Most of them were non-critical. But the one in her lower abdomen was a penetrating wound to her uterus. She might have trouble getting pregnant in the future. Everyone fell silent. They knew how important childbearing was, especially for an unwed young lady. It would surely serve as a huge blow to her later. How? Esma covered her mouth and collapsed on the floor in a heap. What about in vitro fertilization? It would be difficult for a fetus to survive.
David!
Lewis was shaking with anger, and he pounced on David yet again.
You bastard! What have I ever done to you to deserve this? My daughter is ruined because of your family.
He channeled all his anger into his punches.
Calm down, Lewis.
David was beaten to a pulp, and before he could finish, he was punched in the stomach and fell to the floor. Everyone else was busy holding Lewis back. Lewis looked like he had been driven mad, and he couldn't stop throwing punches at the other man.
All right, stop!
Grandpa Bennett yelled. Out of respect for the old man, Lewis stopped and started sobbing.
Lewis, the Bennett family owes you.
The old man inhaled sharply and said,
Don't worry, we will take responsibility. I will make Aaron marry Jenica.
Episode 260. He was rarely so serious unless there was something important.
No, Aaron refused with a cold voice. I already have a girlfriend. How dare you mention your girlfriend?
David, who had taken a beating, was just looking for a way to channel his anger.
Things became like this because of her,
he said.
You only have to be responsible for Jenica. That is the only solution. Brother, Aaron is your only son.
Aaron's uncle couldn't help but remind him in a low voice. Aaron would never have children if he married an infertile woman.
He can adopt children.
Aaron's father closed his eyes with bitterness that he could not express.
Don't you have a son? Our Bennett family will surely have an heir.
Lewis was beyond tolerance.
Enough,
he said.
Do you think I want Jenica to become a part of your family? You people make me sick.
Lewis, calm down, Esma sobbed. Jenica has really liked Aaron this whole time.
And you're the reason they're no longer together.
Seeing Esma, Lewis felt nothing but rage.
You've ruined our daughter's happiness. I don't like Jenica. I won't marry her,
Aaron added. David pointed at his nose and yelled,
You're the last person to say no to her.
Whatever you say. I'm going to the police station to see if they found out anything. I'll come back to see her later. Aaron turned and left the hospital.
Look at your son's attitude.
Lewis was so angry.
Lewis, don't worry. We will persuade him.
Aaron's father sighed. Seeing all this, Sylvia couldn't help but knit her brows and frown. Aaron got into the car and opened the window to take a deep breath of fresh air. After that, he started the car and headed to the police station. Rosaria was already awake. Captain Toss, who was in charge of this case, gave her a quick interrogation before he came out to see Aaron.
Captain Toss, does the suspect have mental problems?
Aaron got straight to the point.
We have tested her blood and found that she's using drugs, but that is not important.
Captain Toss showed Aaron the examination report.
She's covered in wounds. Even we were shocked. One of our female officers checked her body while she was asleep, and she found whip wounds, candle burns, and tears in her private area. I suppose she has suffered sexual abuse. Someone has violently put things like balls and bottles into her body.
Aaron frowned deeper and deeper while hearing that. Clark was sicker than he thought.
Clark did it. He's her boyfriend,
he said.
We've already sent our officers over to him. However, if she's not coerced, Clark's lawyer will be able to get him out of this easily,
Captain Toss said.
Also, we've got some information from Rosaria's interrogation. She was Isaac's girlfriend. Isaac broke up with her because of April. Mr. Bennett, I heard that April is your girlfriend. Rosaria believes that April did all this to her. As you were in a relationship with April, she believed that killing your family would stop you from marrying her and make you hate her. And in that way, April would live a miserable life. Your grandma, as an elderly lady who was defenseless, was her best target. She also did it to get revenge on Clark, who's been torturing her the whole time.
The look in Aaron's eyes turned colder and colder. Rosaria was so evil. She had done all this to herself, yet she blamed April.
There is one strange thing,
Aaron said after a short silence.
Clark abused her so brutally. I don't think normal women could live with that. So why didn't she leave him? There are still some doubtful points in the case.
Captain Toss nodded and said,
Also, we plan to talk to April.
Aaron looked grim.
Why do you have to get her? She wasn't even present tonight. She knows nothing about what happened. I'm sorry, Mr. Bennett. According to the suspect, her motive was to seek revenge on your girlfriend, so...
Captain Toss shrugged.
It's the old lady's birthday today. There were important military personnel present, as well as entrepreneurs and leaders of various fields. I was instructed by my superior to investigate the case thoroughly. Although Rosaria is no longer as popular as before, she is still a public figure. I am sure there will be many reporters and paparazzi at the door tomorrow.
Aaron frowned. He understood that they had a protocol to follow, and he couldn't make them compromise. He walked to the door before he turned to say,
As a public citizen, I think it's necessary to provide some information. I saw Clark and Rosaria outside a few days ago. He was kicking and beating her in public. Coupled with the injuries on her body, I strongly suspect that he has abusive habits. If he hadn't pushed her to the edge, I don't think she would have gone to this extreme. Mr. Bennett, if Clark insists that both parties were willing, and everything was done after consent, we can't do anything if Rosaria doesn't wish to press charges. We can only charge him with a minor offense.
Captain Toss said helplessly. Captain Toss had mentioned this before. Aaron was out of ideas too. He thought about how Clark shirked all responsibilities at the hospital and felt the rage boiling inside him again. He called Marvin.
Let the media know that the CEO of Scarlet Group, Clark, has been abusing Rosaria. I'm sure the reporters will be able to find concrete evidence sooner or later.
Marvin said,
Your second uncle is a shareholder of the Scarlet Group. He will surely suffer financial losses if we leak this information. I am not only going to cause the stocks to drop, but I am also going to ruin the entire company. Clark will never stand again.
Aaron said angrily. He hung up and checked his phone. He had many missed calls. Some were from David, and some were from Sylvia and April. April had called him at around 6 o'clock. It had been too noisy at the banquet then, and he hadn't heard it. He dialed her back, but there was no response. He figured she would be in the studio, and he knew she switched her phone to silent mode every time she went to work. He had no choice but to send her a message instead.
Call me back once you see this. I have something important to talk to you about.
He drove back to the hospital promptly. Grandma was at the hospital, and Jenica was there too. After saving his grandma, he couldn't leave them there. Jenica was admitted to the ICU ward, and Aaron wasn't allowed inside. He could only watch her from afar through the glass window. She was hooked up to a ventilator and multiple IVs, still unconscious. His heart was heavy. Although he no longer liked Jenica, they were still childhood friends who had grown up together. If not for her, he would have lost his grandma this time. He felt sorry and guilty about the fact that she was in such a state now, that she might not be able to have her own children in the future, but that shouldn't be the reason why he should marry her. Outside the ward, it was only Sylvia and Esma. They were sitting on opposite ends of the bench. Esma was sobbing and muttering to herself, "My poor daughter. What will she do if she can't get pregnant for the rest of her life?"
Brother, the police just came to take Clark away.
Sylvia stood up and whispered, "Uncle Lewis is at the police station too." Aaron nodded.
Where is everyone else? Why are you alone?
Grandpa is old, so he went home. It's a little inconvenient for Dad to be in here too. Sylvia glanced at Esma, then continued. Uncle is downstairs, taking care of Grandma. Someone from the Bennett family should stay here. Aaron understood. Anyhow, Jenica was completely innocent. She didn't even know Rosaria. As a member of the Armed Police Corps, risking her own life to protect civilians was her duty. But this time, the person that she had risked her life to save was a member of the Bennett family. Sylvia sighed. This was supposed to be a great day. I can't believe all this happened. I don't know how Jenica will react when she wakes up. She is strong, but I doubt she can accept the fact that she'll never be able to bear a child. That is really a nightmare for women.
Still, they can't make me marry her,
Aaron said impatiently in a low voice. I guess Grandpa just felt that our family owes Uncle Lewis, Sylvia said. Uncle Louis got divorced because of what happened between our father and Auntie Esma. Grandpa has been feeling sorry for Uncle Louis as he thinks he has failed to educate his son well. And now, this happened. Jenica likes you the most, so he can't possibly make our cousin marry her. So, with no other choices, he wants you to. Plus, Rosaria attacked Grandma tonight because of April. Now the whole family thinks this happened because of you. You and April haven't got married yet, but Grandpa already has an awful impression of her. Our uncle is responsible for this too. Clark was his guest, and Rosaria was with Clark, said Aaron in a deep voice. The problem is, Rosaria called April's name in front of so many people. Sylvia shook her head and said, She's such an evil woman. She did all this to herself, but in the end she blames April for everything. She lives a miserable life now, so she's tired of living. But still, she tried to drag April into her troubles and make the Bennett family tear you two apart. This is not so simple. There should be some other reasons, said Aaron in a complicated tone. Rosaria is no longer a star. Why did she destroy herself by trying to hurt April? It's not worthwhile for her to do so, unless her life is worse than nothing. Sylvia paused briefly and said, The police said that she's been using drugs. Drug users tend to have drastic personality changes and mental problems. Why would she suddenly start using drugs? Aaron turned and asked, Does it have something to do with Isaac? Sylvia paused with a shudder of horror. I think the police will talk to April later. You go and find her at her apartment. Aaron said, I'm a little worried about her. What about you? Sylvia asked. I'll stay here for now. Everyone believes that this happened because of me. If I'm absent on the first night, people will have even more complaints about me. Don't worry. Even though Grandpa wants you to marry Jenica, Mom will never agree. You marrying Jenica means that Mom and Esma will become in-laws. I don't even dare to tell Mom about all this. I'm afraid that she'll be so pissed off when she knows. This will be a protracted war that can't possibly end in just a few days. Sylvia sighed and then left the hospital. At midnight, April finished work and came out of the recording studio. It's the first time that Mr. Bennett hasn't come to pick you up. Brandon laughed. April was a little surprised too. Earlier, Aaron said that he'd be free after the dinner party and that he'd come to pick her up. She guessed that something might have kept him. Tonight is his grandma's birthday party. While speaking, she took out her phone and saw Aaron's message, then looked confused. She had rarely seen Aaron use such serious words unless there was something important.